If you ever saw the more recent Sherlock Holmes series with Benedict Cumberbatch, they did a great job showing how he was able to deduce several things based on people's appearance. Paint on the sleeve, hair on the pants, expensive watch but old shoes. For him, it was his attention to detail and genius brain. But we all take in these cues unconsciously. Most of us just don't pay any mind to them. But I will say women tend to more than men do. We talked before about how what you wear and your general hygiene says a lot about you in an instant from a glance. And when we're in person, majority of our communication is actually nonverbal. We are still animals, no matter how you dress us up. So, these nonverbal cues we give and receive from each other can be as seemingly topical as posture, in the middle, like speech speed, how fast or slow we talk, to as deep as pheromones that most of us have no conscious awareness of smelling and responding to, even though we are smelling and responding to them. This is important to note. The female is always looking to the male to lead. Not many of us, maybe you included, had strong, healthy, masculine leadership. So we've all done our best to create it for ourselves. This historically looks like operating from the same wounded place that was modeled by our caregivers. And for women, there's often a deep seated lack of trust in the masculine, therefore, an overcompensation to lead and be in her masculine. Like, if she insists on picking the place or the time, if she checks in several times to confirm with you, has a hard time letting you get the door for her, makes comments about her capability to take care of herself, these can come across to you as nagging, needy, or insecure. But what's underneath this is that lack of trust in a man's capability to be a man because likely her father wasn't able to show up, and I would bet money that her exes didn't either. But what women really deeply desire is for a man to actually lead so we can soften into our natural feminine state of being. So make sure you're taking charge, not in an aggressive way, but in an assertive way. Don't be afraid to take the lead. Assure her that you have got it under control, that you want her to relax and to feel comfortable. So, part of that will be checking in with your body language once you're together. Some common postures that we fall into are arms crossed. Mm. This can read as closed off, indifferent, or defensive, and showing an overall disinterest in trying to understand or be understood by another. There is a physical barrier in place to what might be an intangible emotional barrier. Slouching shows you're uncomfortable, insecure, and protective of your heart. And none of these things are bad or wrong to feel. In fact, they're quite normal. But if you want to show that you can feel these things in a healthy way, then you check in and you make the adjustments. Another thing, eyes darting around. Or constantly checking your watch or your phone. This will make her feel like you are not interested in being there with her, that you are looking for someone else or someone better, or that you even feel embarrassed to be seen with her. Fidgeting in general shows that there is excess energy in the body, which for you could be anxiety or nervousness. And if that's the case, then go back to breathing deeply and trying to ground the excess energy with slower, intentional movements. Because how this can be interpreted on a date is that it's going poorly and you want it to end, but you don't have the actual courage to say so. So you resort to passive aggressive action. We don't want that. If you realize your body is in any of these positions, take a deep breath. Deep breathing is always a good place to start. And try to relax the tension in your body. Sometimes creating intentional tension first can help release it. Again, you can feel free to excuse yourself to do this in the bathroom or vocalize and communicate what you are feeling directly to her. Women want to know that a man has awareness of his feelings and experiences, can articulate them even if it feels uncomfortable, and knows what he wants and needs. We again very much appreciate vulnerability and taking responsibility. It will be refreshing for most of us who likely grew up with absent or avoidant fathers who never followed through on what they said they would do. I encourage you to be different. Be the guy who is present, whose words and actions are consistently aligned. This again will put you miles ahead of most. Also, with body language, check in with hers. If she seems closed off or uncomfortable, ask her about her. Another thing is eye contact. We make very little eye contact with people these days, so this might feel uncomfortable for both of you, but hold her gaze. Be someone who looks others straight in the eyes. It shows her that you are assertive and, on some level, not afraid, even if you might feel a little afraid or vulnerable doing it. There is so much strength and power in eye contact with any human. And I encourage you to also try to keep your guard down when you do this. Allow each other's gaze to penetrate. See and be seen. Now, there are definitely flirtatious eye movements that happen paired with sly smiles. So be able to acknowledge this and acknowledge it simply as an invitation to play. That's all flirting is, a playful energy. Not necessarily romantic or sexual, just playful. It helps us drop into a more pure, childlike, light, curious place, this place that I keep talking about. And knowing this should help ease the effort you might put into trying to flirt and relax you into the space of this being something that you naturally do and can also take the lead to initiate. When it comes to verbal communication, do not hog the conversation. Don't just talk about yourself. All of your accomplishments and accolades and things that you think make you amazing, nobody wants to hear you drone on a laundry list about. These things are okay to express if they come up in conversation, but don't make them the only things shared all night. You can also leave your mansplaining at home. If you're unclear as to what this is and why it's inappropriate, no matter which gender whomever you're speaking to identifies with, I have attached an article and a chart to reference in the PDF. All right, active listening. Active listening is a skill that will benefit you in any conversation you have with anyone because it makes the other person feel heard and valued. It requires you to be present with what the other person is saying. With active listening, you are completely engaged with and enthralled by the person speaking. You are listening to hear and understand, not to judge, not to respond, not to give advice, not to fix or change anything. It's helpful to make eye contact, to ask open-ended questions that uncover deeper answers, to smile and nod to show that you're with her and following, and also to paraphrase back what has been said. On a date, ask her about her. Show interest. Guide the conversation. Let her relax into being cared for. Her receptive energy, softened into, will more deeply engage her trust and her passion. Let her feel and be seen and heard with your engaging questions, active listening, and thoughtful responses devoid of mansplaining. In the PDF, there are 2 pages of questions. Feel free to use your own words and supplement other questions that speak to your own interests, desires, and curiosities. Use questions and answers to gain a better understanding of her background, her line of thinking, if she's an optimist or a pessimist or a dreamer or a realist or a nihilist, whatever. If you're both able to equally share the conversation and be relational, you are at a place where you are taking responsibility in your life. Does it sound like she is too? Or is she still placing blame on outside sources? Does she also live in the space of creating her reality, or is she still waiting for things to happen to and for her? Does she have a spiritual or moral center, a direction in life? Even if you are looking for longevity, a first date shouldn't hold that pressure. So allow time to explore if you like spending time with this person, if you are attracted to them, if you get along, if you have the same humor. The more we release these attachments to these big outcomes, the easier it becomes for them to happen organically.